Live from the mist-enshrouded mountaintop fortress that is X and Y Communications headquarters, you're listening to the world-famous Mountaintop Podcast. And now, here's your host, Scot McKay.
All right, how's it going, gentlemen? This is your main man, Scot McKay, coming at you again with another Mountaintop Podcast episode. You guys know from time to time, I like to talk about things that seem kind of supernatural, things that challenge your mind a little, that are sort of amazing, you know, like futurism and maximizing your mind. And a lot of you guys know that I have been a lucid dreamer now for almost 30 years, and I really find it one of the most amazing parts of life. Today, I have a guest on who's going to illuminate your mind and mine. I can't wait for this show. I plan on learning. I'm going to drink up whatever I can from this cat. But he's going to talk about how to use your mind when you're sleeping to be better when you're awake, including building confidence with women. Imagine manufacturing a world where you're as confident with exactly the kind of women as you'd like. It's almost like a sandbox you can use to get better with women, but does it translate to when you wake up? My guest's name is Ryan Hurd, and he is a dream researcher and educator at dreamstudies.org. Ryan, all the way from Philadelphia. Philadelphia. How's it going, man? Welcome to the show.
Scott, it's so good to be here. It's humid as all out right now, but I'm here in my certified man cave, so it's working out.
Yes, certified man caves for the win. I'm a lucky sort because I have a garage man cave and I have a studio. I get a 2-for-1. This is like my work man cave, and then I have a play man cave as well. So I mean, I'm living the dream over here, man. Looks good, man. Got that rustic look behind you, little stone action.
That's right.
Wood. Yeah,
that's good. Right. This is an old house. This house was built in like 1860 or something like that. Always finding interesting artifacts in the backyard when I garden. I love it here.
Yeah, well, that is cool. What have you found in your garden? What's the most interesting thing?
I found a little pharmacy glass, tincture bottle. It was tiny, and it was so tiny that it must have had some good stuff in it. It must have had something good, and it actually said druggist printed, and I looked it up. I used to be an archaeologist, by the way. That was my first career, and so I looked up, like, based on the stem and whatnot, like what year it was manufactured. But I didn't have to because it actually labeled the druggist's name on the bottle. I looked him up. I found out where his shop was 150 years ago, just down the street from here.
Fantastic. So you used to be an archaeologist, but that got old.
Yeah, and so did I.
Right. It's a lot of trudging around and digging.
Yeah.
That's not an old man's work. We all can't be Louis Leakey now, can we? Out there,
That's right.
90 years
That's right.
old with the Einstein mustache, digging up humanity. Good stuff. Apothecary is another word that came over from the old country that you don't see used much anymore.
That's right. The apothecary.
Yes. Very good. So enough about us. Let's talk about dreaming. Lucid dreaming. We've talked about it on this show before, but man, it has been years. It's overdue. We want to talk about lucid dreaming 2026. I don't think it changes per se, but I think the ramifications do, especially in a world where we're all doom scrolling and a lot of our fantasy is based on what we see in social media and on the internet, certainly on porn. A lot of guys do. They're fantasizing and I could do that to a woman in real life if I could actually get her into the bedroom through porn. But lucid dreaming is different. We talked briefly before we clicked record on this that, if you go back to Alice in Wonderland, the whole through the looking glass thing is really, it's really about lucid dreaming. It's like a big lucid dream that happens. And a lot of people, if they're not familiar with the concept or the reality of lucid dreaming, and it is real, by the way, aren't really familiar with that. So lucid dreaming is one of those things in life. It's kind of like if you know, you know. And a lot of people, sometimes for faith-based reasons, if it isn't in my Bible or in my Quran, I don't believe it. But, my comeback to that is God didn't talk about my pickup truck either. So, I mean, there may be some things that are possible and real that aren't covered. I view lucid dreaming as a gift from God. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and let you define lucid dreaming for these guys so we know exactly what we're talking about first. Would you do that for us, Ryan?
Absolutely. So the minimal definition for lucid dreaming is knowing that you are in a dream while you're dreaming. So not, on the fuzzy edges of sleep, but in the dream, and you look down at your dream hands and you're like, this is a dream. And that's the minimal definition. And what happens, Scott, after that moment, as you well know, is just this sort of eruption of joy and possibility and expansion that happens in the mind, that everything that I see and touch and feel is essentially happening in, as you say, the sandbox of the mind. I would say the larger mind, though, because I think there's really some interesting dynamics that come out to play. And so that's it. That lucid moment is, if you haven't experienced it, it's very difficult to describe, but it is ecstatic.
It is. One thing that you kind of glossed over is you say most people. I think most people, when they realize they're dreaming, snap awake. Like they wake themselves up. And to me, the great skill of lucid dreaming is to train your mind to stay asleep after you go, all right, we're dreaming here. Let's not panic. Let's not blow ourselves back into our awakened state. Let's stay here and endure and persevere and see what happens. And I know that, one of the fun things that when you really do a deep dive into lucid dreaming, especially after you become a lucid dreamer, there are all these tricks and skills. Like I've heard, start spinning around in your dream to make sure you stay asleep instead of you wake up.
Right.
It's amazing. But yeah, it seems like the first skill is figuring out how to stay asleep after you've realized you're dreaming. Because I think a lot of guys, first of all, they're going to say to themselves, "Oh yeah, that's happened to me, but I always wake up."
So there's
a lucid dreamer.
There's a couple things here. And yeah, you were. I mean, and so one of the things you have to know about lucidity is that it tends to happen when the mind is waking up anyway. There's more metacognition happening. The brain is essentially warming up. And basically, some evolutionary psychologists theorize that REM sleep in general, it's so close to waking consciousness, that it's the way to warm the brain up from deep sleep to move into wakefulness. And so the second half of the night, especially the early morning, right? Like the witching hour, like 4 a.m. If you're going to bed, say at like 11 o'clock at night, 4 a.m. or 5 or so, right when the birds are making the racket, but before the sun comes up, that's when you have typically longer REM sleep patterns. That's when lucidity tends to be activated, as well as more vivid dreams in general. And so dreams are weirder and more vivid in those later hours of the night. So yeah, what happens is that you might notice you're dreaming and then you're right on the edge and you do wake up. But you can, honestly, if you stay still, Scott, if you just stay still, close your eyes and kind of just focus your attention again on where are you in the dream, you can recrystallize the dream around you. It's sort of like it's right there. It's still there. And so that's the thing about it. And then the other piece about it, and this is an old problem about waking up early, it's just baked in, is that we get emotionally excited. And when we get excited, we wake up, right? We shoot our shot. And so how do you stay regulated? How do you ground yourself? How do you stay kind of in that moment? And that's something that I was just reading some 19th century text. I think it was Oliver Fox, who did a lot of early out-of-body experience kind of stuff in the 1800s or early 1900s. He was talking about the same problem, about how to not just wake up instead of going through the protocol of moving out of body or into the dream. And so, yeah, there's a focus, there's a grounding piece that is essential. And you mentioned something, Scott, that actually is effective, which is that if you're in a dream and you're beginning to feel yourself wake up, if you spin your dream body, it does something with the vestibular parts of the brain that allows you to essentially stay in the dream.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, there's so much here to talk about. And I know this is going to be such a rich show. And I want to assure these guys, oh yeah, we're going to talk about how to get better with women with dreaming. So hang in there. But this is almost like, as I often like to say, you got to learn how the clutch works before you can, go racing and, drive a manual transmission. So that's what we're doing here. And I think it's well worth really understanding this, especially for those guys who haven't done it before. A lot of us, I think a frontier skill for lucid dreaming is knowing how to wake yourself up from a nightmare. Like you start having a bad dream and you go, oh, dude, this is BS. You're dreaming. Wake up. I think a lot of guys will nod their head and go, yeah, I'm a grown-ass man. I know how to wake myself up from a nightmare and go, wow, that was weird. Shake it off and go back to sleep. But that really is a frontier skill, that cognizance of knowing you're dreaming is the front door, like vestibular. What a great word. A vestibular skill towards becoming a lucid dreamer. So would you say if these guys could wake themselves up from a nightmare, they could do this?
It's one of the most common ways to go lucid, for a first lucid dream to be a nightmare or a nightmarish scenario. Certainly was the case for me. I mean, when I was probably about 14 years old, I was having repetitive nightmares. And I remember this one time I was in the dream and this monster, sort of tentacly monster thing, emerges from a television set. Right now, I'm a child of the 80s, so I had watched Poltergeist at an age that was too young, right? Okay,
Didn't we all? Right.
So that's sort of like, that's my trauma. Anyhow.
I think the kid who starred in that movie is still having nightmares, later. Traumatic thing.
Not to go on a side, but it is, I watched the movie again in my 30s, and it is such a good movie. It's so funny. And anyway, Spielberg, even when he's doing horror, it was amazing. So here's the nightmare. The nightmare is the tentacly monsters doing its thing. And I realized I was dreaming. I realized that this could not be, quote unquote, real. And I felt this surge of power. I felt this surge come through me. And I just was like, no, I refuse. And it just sucked back into the television set. The TV turned off.
That's about the only way you can get a kid that age to turn the TV off, by the way.
And what happened, man? I woke up and I felt so elated. I felt so energized. I realized I had reclaimed something essential, which is power, which is personal power at the age of 14, which is a time when you really, you don't have a lot of that. You don't have a lot of say over your life. And it absolutely affected my confidence, and it affected the way that I walked in the world. And that was that sort of first taste experience of how lucidity ripples out into waking life, that in terms of confidence. And there's lots of studies on this, by the way, that show that lucid dreamers gain confidence and gain emotional resilience and other sort of emotional intelligence skills go up because of the fact that they're lucid dreamers and they're practicing these things. I mean, it's just coming up because the way I think about it is like the door that has the most pressure behind it, it's going to open first in the dream. And so if you're working on a creative problem or a relational problem or a self-esteem problem or whatever it is, like the dream's just like, hey, here it is again. And it's an opportunity to face it, and to face it in a way to get some power, to have some healing, and to wake up a stronger person.
I love it. And one thing before we touch upon what you just talked about a little more that I want to express to these guys is if you're feeling kind of tentative or even dismissive, skeptical about what we're talking about here, first of all, that's completely normal. Because when you haven't experienced something, your first thought is to go, well, it doesn't exist. This is people just messing with me. But I want to remind you guys that if you've never given a woman a full body squirting orgasm, most people just 20 years ago said that was mythical and it doesn't happen. She just peed all over the bed. And yet, once you experience having a woman have her first squirting orgasm ever, it's apparent to everybody that that's very real. Everybody was just being dismissive. There's a part of the human mind that says, well, if it hasn't happened to me or for me, I'm not going to let myself devolve into frustration over that. I'm just going to dismiss it. It doesn't happen. It doesn't exist. And there are lots of situations where, we can think someone who's like been abducted by a UFO or something is really just a whack job. And maybe they are, a lot of that woo-woo stuff. But when it comes to lucid dreaming, gentlemen, truly is one of those areas in your life that the first time you experience, you realize, oh man, I've just opened up a whole level of my life, my existence, that wasn't there before, but has now dramatically enhanced it. And it's for the reason you said, see, I'm bringing this full circle. There are lazy lucid dreamers, aren't there, Ryan? They just let their dream run and go, that was cool, even though I was lucid in it, and they wake up. But then there are people who, once they realize that they've gone lucid in the dream and they've conquered, the inability to stay asleep after they realize they're asleep, they can really start workshopping within that sandbox life skills and things that are going to translate back into real life. Now, when I first started racing BMX again, when I was 15 or 16, I quit the first time because of girls and cars or whatever. I was pretty good at jumping things and, kind of being a daredevil. Well, when I came back, I was 34 years old and the tracks had gotten bigger and I had gotten older and I was a little reticent to jump things. I credit a lucid dream where I was BMX racing as the sandbox where I learned how to jump again. And I said, well, why don't I just do what I did when I was 15? And I did it in the lucid dream and it worked out great. And I could feel the mechanics. I could feel my brain still understanding how to do this without the physical danger of landing in a hospital physically, because that doesn't exist in a lucid dream. And what did I do? I woke up and I went to the track the next time and I was jumping again. I mean, that is as viscerally objective an example as I can think of. Now, let's talk about women. Let's say you're on a bit of a losing streak, a dry spell with women. And a lot of it is because either you don't have the opportunities, or when the opportunities are in front of you, you say to yourself, well, she would never like me, or I just have forgotten how to talk to women, or I don't know how to talk to women. The amazing thing about a lucid dream is your level of control. There's a lever, isn't there, where you can control or choose to let it play out based on what your mind decides. And this is the crazy part. You can manufacture exactly the kind of woman who's your type, or 3 or 4 of them, or several, or a whole ballroom full of them, if you will. And you literally, I'm saying literally in the context of a dream because it's how real this feels. I mean, you guys who have never done lucid dreaming before, never experienced this. The crazy part, the part that leaves you so elated when you woke up, is you realize you have just woken up from something that is every bit as real, every bit as consciously existent as your reality when you woke up. I mean, it rocks your world. It really challenges consciousness and reality for you for the rest of your life. Because when you're asleep in this lucid dream, it feels as real as we're talking about right now. Okay? So you have these women in your dream and they're exactly your type. And you can let your brain manufacture their personalities, what they say to you, how they respond to you. And it's uncanny how accurate it would be to real life when you let your brain do this. Because here's the thing. We know. Deep down, we know there's something to be afraid of. Deep down, we know women aren't all out to get us, or even if they are in your lucid dream, you would be able to respond to that and ignore them or come up with something funny. All those things we don't give ourselves credit for being able to accomplish in real life. We can sandbox in these dreams and we realize it works out okay. And then the next thing you know, you wake up. And because that reality felt, for lack of a better way to put it, real, right? You can transmute that experience into confidence in real life with real women. And then once you see that it plays out well, boom, you're off to the races. And talk about an advantage that other men don't get. I'd put that right there at the top of the list, Ryan.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It here, for the skeptical, let me start here. lucid dreaming is scientifically validated. It has been for decades. Stephen LaBerge did a lot of the early research in the 1980s. It's been verified by dozens of researchers. You can have
LaBerge is a big name in this field,
huge,
by the way,
huge. And he did so much for the field, honestly. And his book is still, go get Stephen LaBerge's book, Lucid Dreaming. It's still in print. He sold 500,000 copies for a good reason, right? It's a good book. And he showed the physiological, EEG, the brain activity. This is REM sleep. And he used eye movements. The dreamer used eye movements in the dream to verify, as had been promised. When I'm in a lucid dream, I'm going to move my eyes left, right. And that's how you'll know that I'm in a dream. And they were able to isolate that. And it's dreaming. It's dreaming. So it's real. And this is, I think you'll enjoy this, Scott. One of the first studies they actually did at Stanford, maybe the third or fourth study. Again, this is the 1980s. They had a woman come in who was an expert lucid dreamer. She could lucid dream at the drop of a hat. She could also have an orgasm at the drop of a hat. She came into the lab and they got on record the first lucid orgasm recorded at Stanford University. And physiologically, it was an orgasm. So she was in a dream having a full-on pleasurable orgasm, and physiologically, in terms of the vascular constriction, in terms of the engorgement of the labia, in terms of everything, real orgasm. So we have what you call the personal details. This happened, and then we have the physical details, the muscle memory, all of that same, right? And so this is one of the first things they figured out is like dreams and reality, right? Big questions here, big philosophical questions, but also there's a training aspect to it. We're having real experiences. And in fact, and this is the thing that it blows my mind every time, we can't tell, the mind cannot tell if you're dreaming something or if you're doing something. There's all these mirror neurons. I could get into that, but I won't. Let me just say that when you experience something in a dream, from the mind's perspective, it's really happening. So the question is, what are you training your mind for? In your lucid dream, what are you training for? What are you trying to experience? And as you say, there's a lever of control. And I have a whole riff about how dream control is actually sometimes overrated. The way I like to approach it is I ask questions and I set up situations or experiments or scenarios in the dream. And then I kind of go like an anthropologist. I go like participant observation. I go like, all right, what's going to emerge? What's spontaneous? What is the dream? How does the dream respond to my query or my question or this situation that I set up? And that's when it gets good, especially for relational and ecstatic and I would say mystically sexual lucid dreams. If you try to control too much in the lucid dream, and I've had dreams like this, I've heard other people talk about it too, too much control and your dream partner turns to a lifeless doll, turns to clay, becomes nightmarish. There's a whole weird element about control that's very important for these relational matters.
It's definitely more fun when she has her own agency. An interesting thing is, it's along the lines of what you're talking about here, Ryan. I've been in a lucid situation dreaming where I said, oh, here's my big chance. I can pull this lever to make this happen or have this person show up or have this woman be this exact woman, et cetera, et cetera. And my brain tells me no in the middle of the dream. Don't do that. And I wake up and go, well, why did I tell myself not to do that? But it's almost like my dream brain state has almost a different level of consciousness that's pre-wired to navigate the dream state.
Yeah.
It's weird that way, but it's almost like, no, this is a different reality.
Right.
Don't try to control too much because then you're going to be taking the magic out of it. It's almost like going to Disney World and explaining to kids how all the rides work and why all these videos do this. You don't want to take the magic out of it. Or almost like a magician telling you how he does all his tricks as he's doing the tricks. That would be no fun, right? It's almost like there's this element of that in lucid dreaming, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And this is what it is we show up with our willpower, with our attention, with our focus, perhaps if we're lucky with our remembered idea. Oh yeah, what was I going to do in this lucid dream? Oh, like I wanted to have a sexual encounter. I wanted to have an erotic encounter. And there's a lot of, this is where people go wrong, is they go hunting. You cannot go hunting in a lucid dream. It often will fall into a game of cat and mouse. Instead, you have to basically hold your power and let yourself be found. Now, there's some ways that you can control for this. For instance, architecturally in a dream, if you walk from one room into another with the intention that there's going to be some partners in this next room. This is going to be something I'm anticipating. I have an idea of who might be in this room. And you change the scene. You walk into another room. It gives the dream a chance for the Matrix to come up with sort of new scenarios, right?
The Matrix.
Right? Yeah. However you want to talk about it, right? There's, if you're going to talk with me, Scott, you're going to get outdated cultural references. That's just part of it.
Hey, let me ask you a question, because I've wondered about this and I haven't had the right expert on to talk about it since I started wondering about it. I don't know if this is because I'm weird, but I'm guessing, I've lived enough years on this earth that I know I'm probably not alone in anything I'm thinking or feeling or doing. In my dreams, I have neighborhoods that I know and I can navigate them. I know if I go down this path, it's going to lead to this place. And I look at this house or this building on the right and go, oh no, don't go in there. We remember what happened in there last time. And I can go through this path and end up in this city. I mean, there's a mystical nature to it that, it's kind of like, it doesn't take as long to walk there as you think it's going to take. And time, space, and dimension get, they're malleable, they're in a state of flux all the time. But this idea of having a dream neighborhood and dreamscapes that you can navigate that are familiar to you only in a dream context. What's up with that?
I know, it's so cool, isn't it? Listen, I had a dream this morning that was in like a version of my home, but it was different. It was a townhouse. It wasn't a standalone house. It had all these different floors. And in the dream, I'm talking with somebody, and I say, "Hey, let's go check out the haunted living room." And they're like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "There's this living room that I discovered that's down in the basement that I barely ever go in, and it's really cool." And what I was,
it's there.
What I was referencing in the dream, this was not a lucid dream, by the way. This is normal dream. I was referencing a dream that I had like 6 weeks ago, in which I found a room in my house that I had not known about. And so there's what we call state-specific memory, right? When you're in a dream space, you're more likely to remember the other dreams than you are, quote unquote, waking life, because we're in this dream landscape. And so we create, and some people have more elaborate dream neighborhoods than others, but we do create, I would say, a topography that we are just kind of like running around all the time. Like mine personally is a combination of, where I grew up, before the age of 20, basically, where I went to college, like my college neighborhood, where I had a lot of my first, being an adult and, expansion and all that kind of stuff. Plus like a couple of peak experiences that happened later, like various oceans and beaches and wilderness settings and things like that. But by and large, like I'm like kicking around the neighborhood I lived in Georgia in the 1980s, like in like the suburbs. That's what I got. That's what I work with.
Yeah, that's amazing. The first lucid dream I ever had was, I woke up just elated because it was very, very much a full-scale lucid dream. It felt real. And I remember I went through this whole litany of things that were amazing. I remember going, you said you can't go hunting, and I know what you meant by that, but I was literally going hunting in this dream. We were hunting submarines that were coming in and out of the clouds with bazookas, without consequence, and laughing about it. That was one of the things that happened in this dream. So surreal things happening in the dream. And as I navigated my way around the dream, I kind of, as you come through the end of the jungle back into civilization, like you've seen in so many movies, the civilization that I came back to was a well-known public area in San Antonio, Texas. And as I walked through it back into San Antonio, Texas, I went like, that's a rabbit hole that exists that comes out here. And I started thinking as I woke up, I wonder if that, I'm like, nah. I mean, like this doorway that you run through in your mind, like the old Queensryche song about silent lucidity. Fascinating stuff. And one thing that I want to mention right now is just to really underscore the idea that this feels real when you're dreaming. It feels every bit as real as you being awake. It's not like I'm having some fuzzy little dreamscape thing like you see on TV sitcoms or whatever. It feels like reality. And the most sobering part of it of all for me is, you hear that you only use like 15, 20% of your mind. You hear all these numbers that vary. After you've had a lucid dream, you believe it because what your brain has just done before your very eyes is manufacture not just your perception of reality, but the whole reality you're perceiving on the fly, without a glitch, without lacking bandwidth, without freezing and having to, spin and figure it out. Your brain is manufacturing a complete, fully scaled, fully functional, full featured reality on the fly, including people you've never seen before. Which, by the way, before the advent of AI and this person does not exist.com and all these things that we can build a person who doesn't exist. I mean, we've become immune to that. This was crazy the first time I dreamt people that don't exist. And it's your brain creating them. And then you wake up going, I've just had my whole sense of reality challenged. Like, is my waking reality real anymore? Is my brain manufacturing all this? The only difference between this reality and my dream state reality is the consequences of screwing up. There are no consequences of screwing up in your dream state reality, really. Not physical ones, not death. You defy death the whole time you're in a lucid dream. Yeah. In reality, though, things are a little bit more poignantly meaningful. Which brings me to this point. There are, and into the uninitiated mind, or someone who's just, reading DeBarge's book or something and realizing, I haven't done this before, but the serious nature of how people take this, it just proves they're on to something, even if I haven't experienced it yet. That's what made me want to experience. I mean, I remember the whole lucidity.org site, if it's still there. Oh. That's what taught me how to lucid dream. This is like early stage of internet. What happens is you have to test to make sure you're dreaming sometimes. And there are established tests. Like, you don't just want to go, oh, I'm in a lucid dream. Let me dive out of this window like Superman, because I might splat if I'm actually in reality. It'd be, oops. The first truth is you're probably not going to jump out of a building. If you have any doubt that jumping out of this building, it wouldn't validate a dream state. In real life, you probably wouldn't. Okay, so that's the first test. But still, it's iffy. It's sketchy. And you're thinking to yourself, this is crazy if you've never done the lucid dreaming thing before. But ones I've seen is look at your watch. Yeah. Put your hand down and look at it again. If it's a different watch or it's a different time, you're probably dreaming. There's little tests that you actually perform to make sure you're dreaming before you go off and fly. By the way, flying in a lucid dream is badass. That's just the best. But
that's it.
Yeah, I mean,
so there was a study.
Talk about the reality of lucid dreaming. And how it feels.
Yeah. I want to tell you about the study first. There was a study that was done maybe 7 or 8 years ago in which internet study. They asked a bunch of folks, "What's your favorite thing to do in a lucid dream? Like, what do you actually do?" And the number one thing is literally flying.
It's better than sex. Trust me.
Number two is sex. Number two is sex.
Yes. Right.
And then after that, it kind of like degrades into a bunch of special interests and things like that. So flying is at the top and then sex. So yeah, like maybe you should have a podcast.
Flying, if you can get you some, is better than sex. Birds, they got it pretty good. Yeah.
This is your new podcast, Scott. You should have a podcast just to how to teach people how to fly, because it's actually what people really, really want.
The title of this podcast might be "Flying is Better Than Sex." I'd probably get a bunch of airline enthusiasts going, yeah,
And what's interesting about flying is like, how do I know what it's like to fly? Because I've never flown, and yet it's extraordinarily realistic.
Mhm.
Long before Google Earth existed, people can't say, "Oh, it's a simulacrum of what you saw on Google Earth." Like, no, we were doing this before we had high end, graphics of what it looks like to ascend above the tree line and to like move through the air, and just the way that it feels, and there's an energy to it. And this is why people love it so much, is that it is, again, there's this willpower aspect, and it's here, it's in your chest, and the mind, you say, "Oh, I want to fly," and sometimes you try to fly and you maybe can't.
I know, even when you're lucid, sometimes you have cement feet, and it's like,
But
what
if
am I
there's
doing?
a
Come on, brain, keep
willpower,
kidding.
because it comes from the chest, it comes from the heart, it's a different level of intentionality that's coming through. It's somatic, right? It's in the body. That is how we lift off the ground in the dream world. And sometimes I fly to go places, and sometimes I let the dream take me places. And this is what
Teleporting.
I love,
Yeah.
is I surrender. Where does the dream take me? It always takes me someplace interesting. I always learn something when I do that. So there is this wonderful give and take about the dream world that, even it's flying, but also with relational erotic dreams as well, that you're in a moment that what makes it special isn't that this person's going to do exactly what I like or what I want. It's that it feels real, and it's a shared moment, and it has an intimacy, and that intimacy is extraordinarily real and vibrant. And when you experience pleasure in those moments, it ripples out in a way that's very difficult to describe in the waking state.
Well, first of all, I think a lot of guys probably have flown in their dreams. They just didn't have control over the dream. So if you've woken up from a dream going, wow, it was cool to fly, that's valid. You know what flying in a dream is like. But having control over it is another whole new level. One of the ways that I trigger myself to know I'm dreaming is when I start taking giant steps like I'm on the moon. Like, that's just something I do. It's like I realize, I can take a bound and be over here. I go, oh, wait a minute, you're dreaming. Wait, go lucid, man. This is cool. That's how one of my little triggers of many that I know. And so I'm not only just flying, I'm defying gravity sometimes. And so there's fun things there. Another thing I want to talk about is how you just mentioned eroticism in your dream and trying things out and kind of letting your brain take over. I credit, and this is something I don't go around saying a lot because, it's just not something my newsletter list or, guys who don't know my work very well really want to hear. I do credit lucid dreaming as not only literally increasing my confidence level with women in terms of talking to them and socializing with them, but also in the bedroom. Because if you start trusting the system, as they say in Philadelphia,
we say a lot of things.
Yeah, right. The Sixers, of course, famous for trusting the system. The system didn't work out for them very well this year, but they're going to get a lot better this year. And you have erotic situations with women in dreams, and you see how they respond to that. What your brain is doing is kind of an AI thing where it's drawing on all the experiences you've ever seen, not only in terms of your own experience, but what you've classified in terms of the likelihood of experiences that others have. I know that sounds really complicated, but what it boils down to in your own dream is women will respond rather accurately if you let your brain take over. If you let this reality you're manufacturing take over, it will start mirroring what it understands to be reality. Perhaps not for you yet, but what you understand happens for other guys, even if you're kind of resentful because this Chad gets chicks or whatever. All of a sudden, you're in your reality in your dream, and women are responding to you in a certain way. And what that does is it emboldens you in terms of your confidence level and also in terms of your performance level, frankly, to go, I got this, I've done this. Even if in the moment you're thinking, I don't even really know, I don't remember this dream having given me this, but I know that I've got this experience. I know I'm not as afraid of this or feel as inexperienced towards this as I would have prior to being a lucid dreamer. And then you go out and you meet and talk to women in a different way. And then when the sexual opportunity happens, it weirdly goes like it went in the dream, because your leadership, your piloting of that sexual experience in the bedroom causes women to respond as women do, and that confidence and that very, very real experience you had in your dream state does translate. And I credit the perhaps unfairly fast rise to being better with women in my life after my divorce to having this sandbox to practice in. It's an unfair advantage. It could be the ultimate unfair advantage compared to other guys.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And there's research that backs this up, Scott. I mean, so it's not one-to-one, but you mentioned BMX biking and how that helped you perform better with BMX biking. There's research on gymnasts, rock climbers, as well as basketball athletes. So high, level athletes who performed some kind of benchmark test and then had a lucid dream, tried to have a lucid dream and succeeded in doing that task in the dream, practicing that test, whether it's shooting baskets or performing a difficult floor routine for gymnasts. And then they went and did it again in waking life, and they found that performance had improved. The benchmark had moved. Because in the dream, you are essentially in a flow state. You are, everything external has been blocked out. You are literally in the zone. Everything that's here is what's here. And then there's this muscle memory piece to it that we don't understand yet. But the mind doesn't get it. It doesn't know if it happens in real life or in a dream. From the perspective of the mind and the neurons that are firing at your muscles, it's the same.
All it knows is you did this and you did it right.
Right. So again, come back. What are you training your mind for? This is the question. What are you training your mind for? So that's why I say, when it comes to, say, sexuality, don't go hunting in a dream for a woman to have sex with, because that's not how we actually act in waking life successfully, at least not directly. That's a mouthful
right there. You said more than you even realize.
Okay. Yeah. Right? I mean, I don't know. Push back against me. But
no, guys who are trying to get laid are the least laid guys I know. You've got to just enjoy women and let the game come to you like a point guard.
I remember so many times in my own life when I was a young man, when I was trying to do something and I stopped and just became comfortable in my own skin. And then women began approaching me because I was not a hunter at that time. And I was safer. Anyway.
Different than just be yourself dating advice. It's more like the authenticity.
It's authenticity.
Of relaxing and realizing you're enough. I mean, the number one skill to getting better with women is believing women should want you. Nowadays, I would kind of saddle that one with, you got to like women. A lot of guys just don't like women anymore. And women don't like men. If you actually like the gender you're trying to attract, that's a huge feather in your cap. But I still say number one is actually believing women should be attracted to you. Then that's leadership.
I love that.
100%. I'm right there with you. And then your brain does train you. It's a sandbox.
Okay, it is. And so, and when I was a young man and having sexual lucid dreams, having sexual experiences that were, actually leading to orgasm in my high school years, that was a huge pressure release off of reality that made me more confident, that made me more able to be in the moment. I mean, and it really was a confidence booster. And you said that thing, Scott, that dreaming made a difference for your own life. And it did for me as well. I would not be the person who I am today if I was not a lucid dreamer.
This is why we're having this show. Yeah. Because it does matter to your success with women. It is a huge linchpin that guys will, unfortunately, guys listening to the sound of our voices, Ryan, will dismiss this and say, that's just a bunch of, that's silly. But it is something very real that you can harness. And like I said, once you've experienced it, you realize that, man, I feel sorry for people who will live and die never having experienced this, because they will just have missed an entire dimension of what it means to be alive. I really do think it's God's gift to us, and we should explore it. I think it's meant to be. I think this has been a fantastic conversation. And gentlemen, I can't underscore to you enough that this is a learnable skill. Like many other things, the learning process can be frustrating. But I'll give you a little hint. You talked about how, it's almost like your dreams are darkest before the dawn. Like when your brain is fixing to wake up, you're you're more likely to be a lucid dreamer. I've heard about these lucid dreaming camps people go to learn how to be a better lucid dreamer, and it'll make you chuckle, especially if you're uninitiated, because they have like mandatory nap time. And if you take a nap on a Saturday afternoon, when your circadian rhythm tells you probably shouldn't be sleeping and it's daytime outside and you're just asleep for 2 hours, you are more likely to have a lucid dream and nap time than you are at night. I've noticed that. And I've heard people talk about that. So, if you want to be a lucid dreamer, I'm going to go ahead and let you give these guys an idea or two on how they can get started if this is new to them. But my first one is to take naps. And the second one is tell yourself before you go to sleep. Tell your waking mind before you go to sleep that you want to do this. If I have a dream, realize it and stay asleep. Just start talking to yourself that way.
Yeah.
I would also say take notes of level 1 sleep, stage 1 sleep, which is like, and everybody's experienced this. You're awake, you're kind of in bed, you haven't fallen asleep yet, but you start getting weird little visions of stuff. Like, where did that even come from? Well, that's your first sign that you have it in you to be a lucid dreamer, because you're actually seeing visions and you're actually drifting off into thoughts that your brain is manufacturing for you before you've even gone to sleep. So that whole stage 1 sleep where you're starting to hallucinate a little before you fall asleep is actually sleep, and it's something you can harness. So those are my 3 little nuggets, but I want you to give these guys some other ideas so that they can start being lucid dreamers and actually tap into everything we're talking about, Ryan.
Yeah, this is the way that I think about it. Is undergirding all this is you have to have an appreciation for what your dream is telling you. And so we're building bridges between the waking world and the dream world by paying attention to what happens to us in our dreams. And so keeping a dream journal is very effective, especially if you have a physical dream journal and you write down your dream. There's something about using pen and paper that does the work of memory that typing does not. It reifies it in some way. And of course, over time, you get to see your patterns. And some of those patterns can be useful to where do I want to have a lucid dream? Oh, like, look, for instance, I dream repetitively about going to my high school locker and I can't open the combination. This is actually true for me. This is a true repetitive dream, right? I will go, and I realized this is the point where the next time I'm at my high school locker, next time I'm at my locker, I'll know I'm dreaming. I planted that seed. And so it happened. And here I am again. And then I was like, oh yeah, is this a dream? No, this can't be a dream. Of course, you doubt it at first. So you have to do a reality check in the dream. You mentioned looking at your watch. There's a couple of other ones. You mentioned how the gravity feels a little different. That's a good one. For me, I hold my nose, because in waking life, if I hold my nose, I can't breathe through my nose. But in a dream, right? You can still breathe because you're
underwater. We didn't even talk about underwater.
Right. So anyway,
those gills is amazing. Yes.
Those are little verification tactics. And those verification tactics, by the way, is another way to increase the likelihood of having a lucid dream. It's called a reality check. If you practice reality checks as well as doing the journal work, then you can have more lucid dreams. And a reality check it's a whole thing to get into, but basically you're training your mind to ask myself, am I awake and aware right now? And how do I know? And so you have to ask the question, and the question has to be sincere, because if you blow it off, you'll cognitively blow it off in the dream too, because what are you training your mind for? Right? Yeah. What are you training your mind for? So you have to do the reality check in waking life. You have to look at your watch and look away and see if the digital text changes. You have to hold your nose and see if you can breathe. There's 2 examples of reality checks. Okay, I've verified it. I'm in waking reality. Or I've verified it. This is not waking reality. This is a dream. So if you practice reality checks like 5 to 10 times a day basically try it for 2 weeks, I would say, while you're doing dream journaling and while you're going to sleep with intention that I want to have a lucid dream, very good likelihood that you'll have a lucid dream within the next 3 weeks. Very good.
I would
likelihood.
also encourage guys, if you tell yourself, hey, I'm going to have a lucid dream, if you do the reality checks, everything we're talking about here, and the first few times you realize you're dreaming, you wake up, don't get discouraged. You're more than halfway there. You know, the fact that you are putting yourself in a position to be lucid is majorly half the battle. Don't get frustrated when you can't wake up, when you wake up every time. Just keep pressing forward, and then there will come a time where your brain says, all right, we've done this enough time. This time we're gonna have been trained. We're gonna stay asleep. You and your consciousness together. It feels like I'm saying this we. I'm using this first person royal we, first person plural, because it is really like you and your subconscious are partners in the same body, in the same soul, working together on this when you're in a sleep reality. It's almost like you've got an AI agent working for you or against you in your own mind. It's really strange, but you'll understand this completely once it starts working.
I would even say it might be more than one agent.
Could be, yes, absolutely.
So, I mean, there's all kinds of ways to interpret it, but there are intelligences behind the dream. Absolutely. There's so much going on that I cannot keep track of.
We haven't even touched upon so many things. One thing I do want to say, because you talked about it at length, about the reality checks, almost every time in my entire life, when I feel the need to do a reality check, I'm sleeping.
Right.
And I do have, like you, I have touchstones within dreams where I trigger myself to go, dude, you're dreaming, go lucid. One of them is witnessing a plane crash, because you're unlikely to see that in real life. And anytime I see a plane going down in flames, which probably says a lot about my everything that I'm worried about and frustrated about, psychoanalysts would have a field day with that one. Or anytime that I'm playing for the San Antonio Spurs as a backup point guard, I'm probably dreaming. I've figured those out as touchstones. Great stuff. Great stuff.
Yeah.
You have a book. Just to point out that we haven't touched on hardly anything. This is such a deep topic. You have a book on Amazon called Sleep Paralysis, a guide to hypnagogic visions, about nightmares and feeling like, you can't move, you can't wake up, all those scary things that happen to you in your dreams, which we haven't even talked about. You have a whole book on this topic, and you can find it on Amazon, and I'll put that right at the top of my Amazon influencer queue at mountaintoppodcast.com/Amazon for you guys. Also, dreamstudies.org is your site. And when guys go to mountaintoppodcast.com, we're going to have to make it lucid dreaming, because we've actually done lucid before. Right in mountaintoppodcast.com/lucid dreaming, and they'll go to dreamstudies.org. Ryan, what will they find when they get there?
You'll find everything you need to get started with getting more into dream work. And I also want to shout out that I just published a dream journal, a physical dream journal. It's actually a connected dream journal. It's the world's first connected dream journal. So I partnered with an app called Elsewhere, elsewhere.to. And so you write down your dreams physically in the dream journal, and then you use your smartphone to scan your handwriting. It digitizes it. It creates your own secure dream journal, and then it uses AI features to give you patterns as well as dream interpretations if you're into that kind of thing, a bunch of other features. It's really cool. I've been using it myself. And again, there's something about the physicality of a dream journal that's important, but then to get the tools, the analysis tools at the same time, it's the best of both worlds.
Good stuff. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us today. You're just a wellspring of information on this. And I'm sure you'll join me in really encouraging these guys, especially if they're not lucid dreamers, to make this happen in your life. Prioritize it. Because, if you're sleeping a third of your life, or roughly, you might as well make the best use of it.
That's it. The creative dreaming mind is always working.
Yeah, this isn't something you have to deprioritize something else to do, which is an underrated point.
True.
You can become a lucid dreamer without giving up anything else in your life, because you're asleep anyway. This isn't something you make time for. If you're asleep, this is your option of what you can get done while you're sleeping. It's amazing. Yeah.
It's a profound practice, and my dreams have taught me so much over my lifespan, and my lucid dreams as well. And I love sharing about it. So thanks, Scott, for having me on.
Yeah.
This has been
Yeah,
fun.
it's a great topic. Yeah. Thank you, Ryan. Hope to have you back. Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Guys, if you haven't been to mountaintop.podcast.com lately, grab the free report, flip the switch. 5 things you can do right now to get better with women. Let's add a 6th, take a nap. Okay? I should just write that, make it 6 things you can do right now. Grab that report when you get on my newsletter. Guys, my newsletter is fluff free. Every day I will send you for free in your email box something you can use right now to get better with women, be a better man. Sign up for that at mountaintoppodcast.com. Also, check out our sponsors. Jocko Willink's company, Origin in Maine, will outfit you like a man. The best supplements, the supplements that get absorbed in your body the right way. Also, the Keyport, your everyday carry item with the tools you need on it, not your grandfather's Swiss Army knife. This is a 21st century everyday carry item. Badass. Go to the Keyport and see what they have if you never have before. Also, the guys at Hero Soap, they give some money back to wounded veterans, make you smell like a man. None of these artificial ingredients that are going to cause you to grow man boobs and horrible things like that. Hero Soap, good guys, good people. John Hendel over there running the show. Just such a great guy. When you partake of anything from our 3 longtime sponsors, use the coupon code MOUNTAIN10 to get an extra 10% off. All of that and more is there for you, including a chance to get on my calendar and talk to me personally. Some of you guys still haven't done that. Guys, what you see is what you get. My passport says Scott McKay on it. I'm who you think I'm going to be. Let's talk about your life with women, how you can be a better man. If it makes sense to put together a coaching program, so be it. But I always like talking to you regardless. All of that and more is there for you at mountaintoppodcast.com. And until I talk to you again real soon, this is Scott McKay from X&Y Communications in San Antonio, Texas. Be good out there.
The Mountaintop Podcast is produced by X&Y Communications. All rights reserved worldwide. Be sure to visit www.mountaintoppodcast.com for show notes. And while you're there, sign up for the free X&Y Communications newsletter for men. This is Ed Roy Odom speaking for the Mountaintop Podcast.